Little Legends Podcast is a Prediction Esports production. Support us by subscribing to the Prediction Esports Podcast channel on your favorite podcast provider. Hey guys, welcome back to Little Legends Podcast, episode number 20. I am your host, Blevins. Joining me, as always, is Boop.
Hey.
And joining us today, special guest, DeephErikson. What's up, buddy? Welcome to the show.
Hey, how you doing? Thank you much.
I am doing well. Thanks for coming on. And let's just start it out. And we're going to do a little bit of a little off show here, a little off the beaten path. We only got a little bit of news to talk about. We'll talk about the 9.24B patch, all that good stuff. But we want to talk about Super League Gaming, which we'll get to in just a bit, because that's where you're from, Deef. The Super League,
True.
Not just any league.
That's where I am right now.
That's where I thought you were in the Baron pit right now.
Yeah. They're hiding in the bush, waiting to steal my goods.
Yeah, I bet renter's insurance there must be pretty rough due to all the constant damage that is being poured onto it.
Considering that the residents die literally every second.
Yeah. What's it like to be surrounded by constant death and turmoil?
It's just another day at the office.
Yeah, that's
Wait,
that's
so
esports, right?
Are the offices in Detroit? Okay, no. Little too deep on the political commentary there. I'll do a little bit of housekeeping here before we get into it. Of course, we are a Prediction Esports Podcast, PREDICTION. Make sure you're checking us out there on Spotify and iTunes if you're not already. You can also be like one of the crazy people like Dr. Pepper, who's at the $25 level on our Patreon, but you can also be a more reasonable human being and be pretty much at any level that you want over patreon.com/Little Legends Podcast. And so logistically, next week is right in the heart of the holidays, so we're not going to have a regular show. It's going to be tough to do that. So I've got a little bit of an idea here for what to do. I might record a little thing that's just a collaboration or a collection of what everyone's TFT holiday wishes are for the new year. What do you want Mort Claus to bring you in the new year for TFT? If you've got some ideas, what do you want to see? You want to see spectator client? Do you want to see tier? Do you want to see 4-tier units? Do you want to see new champions? Let us know in the Discord, discord.me/Little Legends Podcast, in the show suggestions. I'm going to collect those and just talk about them. Have a little real casual show next week for the holiday. Deef, is there anything off the top of your head that you would want for Morta Claus to bring you in the new year for TFT?
Oh, you nailed it. Spectator client.
Oh,
100%.
Yeah. That's number one on my
Give me
list
that
as well.
spectator client. Yeah, that is the number one thing I'd like. If that's not going to come, the more simple thing is when you're spectating right now, I would like the health bar colors of the units match health bar of Little Legend. So it's a little easier to tell who is who without memorizing.
Yeah, that is true. When you're the whole even in the game, the spectating is like, as a player, is like, oh, wait, I click someone but they're red now. It's like
yeah.
I don't know, guys. I just remember my units. I don't know about you, but
you remember your units, but when you die and are looking at someone else.
I know. I'm being facetious this holiday season. No, so what I want, I know you didn't ask, but what I want.
I was about to, but I figured you. But I knew you better than that. I knew you would just answer.
I know, right? Because what I want from more is more attention. No, I'm just kidding. To be a part of the league partner program. I mean, like, I think the easy one is the spectator client. So let me see if I can come up with something like from out of left field. Oh, you know what I think would be super cool? A unit that takes up 2 hexes.
Oh, that's true. That would be really cool.
Shouldn't that be Malphite? I mean, he is a mountain.
I know, right? But I was also thinking maybe like Zaya and Rakan could be really cool. Or yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like,
Yeah, that
'cause,
makes
like,
sense.
since the board is bigger, like it would be, or like Zach, for example, could do something like that. But I think it's something that they could maybe experiment with in a future set. It's
Yeah.
not out of the running, but I think that could be super cool.
What I want is for them to, in just any way, as little or as big, to just make a mention to how the little legends taste. I need, I just want a little nod.
Oh yeah, okay. So Deef, there is a pretty large history of us discussing what little legend tastes the best. We usually revisit
It
it
started on
at
Thanksgiving.
we
don't
usually
wanna know
revisit
that.
it
I
at the
don't
end of the podcast. And now that I know you're uncomfortable by it, we're definitely going to talk about it.
We're certainly going to be spending an
Yeah,
extended period of time.
100% going to be talking about it.
What I don't want to know how they taste. I want to know how you would prepare each one individually.
Oh, no,
Ooh.
we talk
Would
about
you
that.
fillet and grill? Would you
Well,
maybe a little?
well, some of the little legends are closer to like Kinder eggs, while some of them are closer to like jerky. Like this is we've got it covered.
We've got it covered, and we'll cover
We've even got like the emotions of how the little legend is feeling.
No,
them.
no, we're not getting. We're not going down that rabbit hole yet.
But Blev, I'm surprised you didn't ask for that beard synergy.
I mean, I'm gonna wait for it. It'll be on my list. The thing is, if you say things out loud, they might not come true. So that's how a birthday wish works. So that's how I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with this, but get your submissions in. I want to read them out and talk about them for next week. Just in the holiday spirit. It'll probably be a short show. I'll probably be somewhere. I'll probably sound like garbage on a different mic on a laptop in a closet that I'm hiding in. But it'll be great. It'll be great. But let's move on here and let's talk to the man of the hour here, DeephErikson, who is from Super League Gaming. I just want to know, I guess, let's just talk about it, get it out of the way. What in the world is Super League Gaming for those of us who don't know, and how is it related to TFT?
I have no. Okay. Super League.
Wait, me?
Super League, no. Super League is a place for amateur gamers. Really, I should say amateur gamers anywhere to connect. Put simply. So, if you are looking just to get into sports, but you've never done that, this is a great place to get your foot. Whether you want to play in easier, less stressful competitions or major city versus city competition, you put on a jersey ship. We've even flown people out to LA to like Red Bull Studios for the best of the best. So there's all different levels. So whether you're looking for something that hardcore or maybe you just want to go to a game center city, meet other people that are down to play the games that you like to play, Super League is the place to do that. So that's it put rather.
That's awesome. Yeah, and we were talking about it in the preview show, or in the not the preview show, the pre-show. I had actually heard of Super League many years ago when you guys were actually back in the movie theaters.
Yep.
And I think you guys were doing League, and you may have added Clash Royale, I think, a little bit later on.
Yeah, for the movie theaters, it was League of Legends. We actually did Minecraft.
Yes.
And we did Clash Royale.
Yes. So going from there, I mean, to me, it makes sense why you'd want to do TFT. But what was kind of the thought process going, from those games into TFT and where you are now?
It was pretty natural. So we love League of Legends here. I particularly am a massive League of Legends fanatic. As soon as I saw TFT was launched, I was one of the first few that would sit in those queues for hours, and they would patch, during the day. So suddenly everybody would get kicked out, but I'd be at work. My roommate would be home. So as soon as he was back, he would log me in and get me into that queue, and I'd get back from work and it was on. So I was super into it right from the beginning. And as soon as I got it, I work primarily in broadcast here at Super League. All I wanted to do was like, how do I broadcast? How do I run my own? Do it. So that's one way we're involved. We're also now, like you said, we started movie theaters. Now we're in over 100 gaming centers U.S. and actually national. So we have ways to basically have massive gaming centers. Some would call them LAN centers. So LAN v LAN or even country v country TFT. So it's a pretty natural game.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Cool. If I can
yeah.
hop in here
Yes,
real quick.
I was going to pass it over to you again. I can
know
read
me.
your mind, Boof.
You can. You saw like the Zach Galifianakis meme in front of my eyes. So I've worked in the gaming industry for a bit now, and I've been in the esports world. And something that I've always curious about with people who have their fingers in developing communities and developing things within esports is how you get people to buy in, right? You mentioned that you're in 100 places, but how do you make this worthwhile for you and your team, and getting investors and getting locations to buy in and actually do the things that you want to do to try to make esports better?
Oh, it's tough, and I'm not as involved in those decisions. It's kind of different depending on who you're trying to sell to, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, with investors, and have a different want. So, for example, let's say you're trying to get a credit card by what you're trying to do. The way you're going to do that is convince them that you can get people to sign up, open credit cards.
Mm-hmm.
That's all. That's like all they want. So obviously, with any sponsor, it's different. With locations, it's usually just how are you going to bring people there. And with gaming centers, it's pretty easy. I mean, with movie too, it's like during your off hours, we'll bring in a whole bunch of gamers to your movie theater, play games, and they will probably buy popcorn. Movie theaters are like, that sounds great. We'll do that. So you just have to figure out the angle of who they are and what they want.
Mm-hmm.
If anything, the gamers might be the most difficult.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It depends. Because you have to convince a gamer, why should I leave my house?
Mm-hmm. True though.
True. Yeah. Why should I leave my house? Because at least and how there's been so many developments now. I mean, here we are on Discord talking to each other.
Mm-hmm.
We very easily sit on, and a lot of gamers will invest in building up their own rigs, and they're on Discord and comfortable and food, and even have to put on pants, but you get to have that gaming right there in your house. So our value add is a few things. Number one, I think core to has always been in-person events are better.
Yeah.
And convincing people can be tough. It's something that just making that from just to try it once, to go out to an area, that's a big difference. But once you do, you make friendships with people that you've never seen before, and really beautiful stuff happens when you put gamers in venues together in person. So, for example, people have met their spouse at Super League events. We find that when we do in-person events, we get a lot more women to buy in. Just because it's much more difficult to be toxic to the person you're sitting next to.
That's where you're wrong.
Challenge accepted.
It's true though, but
No,
like,
it is.
Like, we have, in terms of percentage, like a lot more women will show up to Super League events than just play. At least when you look percentage-wise, than just play League of Legends.
Well, it's probably a really good introductory type of atmosphere as well, right? Because you're with a group of people. There's no pressure to really know anything that's going on. And when, like, it's kind of like if you go to like a Flesh Sports game, you don't know the rules, but everyone else is cheering, and then you're like, yeah, this is a good thing.
Wait,
right? Like
wait,
the energy.
a what?
Just takes over.
A what sport?
Sure.
Flesh Sports, the name of my college store.
And we got there.
And then another thing is we have a deal in LAN centers now. So we hooked up with a company called GG Circuit that develops the software that most of these gaming centers will use on their PCs that track your hours, track the games and whatnot. So the other incentive is just if you spend time at these gaming centers playing, you get something called SP, and then you can use that SP to buy stuff from our prize vault.
Oh, that's sweet.
I think one of those things might even be me personally shoutcasting like a VOD. So it's like
Nice.
anywhere from there to like Logitech G gear, depending on what your fancy is.
That is pretty sweet. That's actually
Awesome.
really awesome.
Well, how did you get involved in wanting to be involved, right? So, like, you had to make a decision and say, you know what? I'm gonna be involved with Super League specifically. I'm gonna help out, and I'm gonna lend my voice and my talents to growing this certain esport. So what kind of got you involved? Because I'm a caster too, and I
Okay.
love hearing kind of like the
Me too.
I love hearing like the origin stories of how people start, because it's not usually like I've wanted to be a caster my whole life, right? That's not
No.
because it's not been around our whole lives, right? So
No.
what kind of made you make the decision to jump into the deep end?
Very funny, actually. And I wonder how familiar it'll be to you, but before I worked for Super League, I would freelance for ad agencies,
Uh-huh.
I was essentially a professional Googler. um, Seriously, so what I would do is I would collect found footage that would be used in ads. So particularly, I worked on like shot on iPhone stuff, and a lot of those like OK Google commercials, if you've ever seen them. And those are just like it's just footage that was found on YouTube, and I would find that stuff. So I did all that sort of stuff, and then I got forwarded an email from a buddy from Super League. They were just looking for beta testers for League of Legends City Champs Season 1, which is in movie theaters, City v City. It was only in 4 cities. So, but I didn't know that yet. They're just like, come, we're going to pay you $50 to come play in a movie theater. I was like, great. At that point, I was Diamond 4 in League or something. This was when there were still 5. Let's see, this was 2016 or 2017. So I show up in a movie theater. I do a beta test. It's fun. I do another, and then they email the beta tester saying, hey, we're looking to hire Action Squad, which are our boots on the ground, the people who staff our events, at least the ones that need staffing. Movie theater ones definitely did. A lot of setup, a lot of tournament admin that need to be done, a lot of tech support. So I was like, that sounds fun. I can work evenings and just do video game tournaments. Super cool. I didn't know that much about Super League. I didn't know that much about esports, anything. And based on my interview, I got the job. Somebody just decided that I would probably be the best person to be on the mic and MC the event. So it was not on my own volition. I just kind of said, this seems like a fun opportunity to work nights. And they just put a microphone in my head and said, go. So that was what I did. And then the game started, and I just started. I had good knowledge of the game at that point. I'd watched so much LCS obsessively, and I was a Diamond support main, so my game knowledge was above par, and that was all I did. I just started shouting stuff, and people were like, "You're not bad at that." And then one person who's playing that season, his name is Mad Magical. He's now mostly my casting partner. He was casting for a bunch of different leagues, primarily one called Compete League, that he then said, hey, you should sign up for this. I never actually got a chance to cast for Compete League because then I just got hired by Super League full-time, and now I'm a caster.
That's awesome. Are you color or play-by-play?
I typically prefer color, but depending on situations, I will do both.
Interesting. All right. Yeah, because
I'm Super League's house caster, so
Got
I will mold to whatever situation needs to happen.
Excuse me, sir. May I have the well caster, please? That'd be great.
You only get well caster on happy hour.
Yeah, exactly. Only from 3 to 6. After that, he has to choose color or play-by-play. Well, yeah, and and that's the thing, because like when Blev and I cast, or when I'm casting Overwatch, there's in Overwatch it's like very stay in your lane, right? So like in different kind of organizations and in different kinds of situations, the style might develop itself. So in your opinion, what would you describe like your style as? And because we have to ask this question to all casters, is like if you're just starting out, right? Because TFT is a new game, right? So there's going to be new talent that's going to be able there's going to be new talent that might be able to come in and start cutting their teeth on some initial casting, especially if they're trying to get into other auto battlers or other card games. What advice would you give them in terms of how to get started and what you're like, and how to develop a brand and style?
Yeah, so I'm going to go back because at first I think you asked kind of more like what my brand, what my niche is.
Yeah.
I think I try to, and I would say that at least the LCS caster that I try to emulate the most would be Kobe. In that I just want to, dude, I love Kobe. So I'm not necessarily trying to be the Azael where he's more of like a caster's caster. Same with like a Papa Smithy too, where it doesn't matter how good you are at the game, how smart you are. When you listen to those guys cast, they're always going to teach you something. I'm not going to do that necessarily. My job, as I see it, is to just try to make you have as much fun watching the game as possible by being so genuinely enthusiastic about what I'm watching, and conveying that through commentary, such that it's like I'm just your best friend that's sitting there next to you and we're watching sports together. And I'm just like that. Oh yeah, that's that dude I really like to watch sports with because he has such a good time. And I would say that that's what I aim for. And then as another thing with Super League, since we're doing amateur, and a lot of times we have people that aren't necessarily experts in the field. Sometimes it's even like parents of kids that are playing, or wives or spouses, or have no clue what's going on. I always try to have an angle where I'm explaining things such that I'm not talking to like, that top 1% audience. I'm trying to broaden the horizon and make this something that, like, even if you've never watched video games before, try to make it somewhat digestible and entertaining. Then the second part, you said, for new people. I'd say one thing you can do is try to figure out what you like about casting, and particularly look at casters that you admire. Figure out why you admire them. Sometimes it's what they talk about. Sometimes it's cadence. Honestly, it's like because it's just like a rhythmic thing that you just enjoy, and try to identify those things, and then emulate those, and not all the way, but like if you can figure out what makes somebody good at something and then start doing it yourself. Honestly, very similar to like getting better at TFT. It's just like watch the best players play, see what comps they're using, just start playing those comps. And then once you get familiar with those things, you can figure out how to start tweaking them to your own. So just because, you're watching Hafu play Soulbound Light a certain way, where I lost last night, she put like, 3 giant slayers on Lucian, and it was nasty.
It's pretty good.
It's pretty good. And then, so, first you just try to copy it exactly. And you do that a few times, and then you can start saying, well, what if I do this? And you start tweaking things and making it your own. It's like that in so many things. And just like in casting, just figure out why you like it, what you like about it, emulate somebody who's better at it than you, and then from there, tweak and figure out how to make it your own.
Cool.
Because you really just have to, you got to be you, and you got to be authentic. Otherwise, you're just not going to be compelling.
Yep, emulate. Tactically steal is what I like to say to up-and-comers, right? Just
I
don't
say tactically crouch too.
It's really important because you speak on a lot of stuff that Blev and I have talked about in our casting, right? It's like you have to be entertaining and educational, and how you define yourself, you got to lean into it, right? Like you have to know what you're good at and build upon your strengths. But there are people who are going to be better than you, and you can emulate, but don't imitate, right? If you ever lose yourself or you sound like someone else, that person already exists, right? Like, what's differentiating you to get hired for this particular event? But anyway, as I get further into the weeds, one more quick one on this casting thing. How long have you been doing it for?
Well, so I was doing it in venue for Super League for a year, on and off, but that was very different because it's not casting in the traditional sense. I mean, I stood up there with a microphone in a movie theater solo, like you're emceeing and just like welcoming people into events and giving announcements. And then you're solo casting games for hours. So it actually gave me a lot of bad habits in casting that I had to work out because I wasn't used to casting with somebody else. So you're just doing your play-by-play, and then you break it down yourself, and then you go play-by-play, and it's very rough. Then when I got here, my original job was just to hire and train other Action Squad, so I didn't do it for a while until we did a big Red Bull event, and on the day of the event, they decided, like, hey, we'll just put you on the desk, and then I casted for 6 hours, and from that moment on, they're like, okay, that's your job now. So I want to say about a year and a half I've been casting and producing professionally.
That's awesome. One other question about casting, something that Boop and I have talked about and have experimented with some of the events that we've casted is the actual casting format for TFT. We've done...
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, it's a little bit weird, and we've done the TriCast where we had essentially like almost like a host and then two like half color, half like and it worked out kind of well. I just wanted to kind of get your thoughts if you've done that before or like for TFT specifically, what you think about that.
For TFT specifically, just because it's a different genre of game, it's very weird. I don't think there's obviously no set style yet on the more professional ones. They really do just kind of put two colors that just sit and talk about it, more like you're casting Hearthstone or poker almost. And it's just like two knowledgeable voices that just kind of talk and give their opinions because you don't need that super hype play-by-play
Right.
like you do with League of Legends. When we do our own TFT tournaments, I cast with a guy named Cage in the Rage, and he typically will actually get real hype on the play-by-play during the battles, which is hilarious because TFT battles are really funny.
True.
So having somebody attempt to play-by-play them is pretty funny. Obviously, it's not going to be the same way with like in Korean where they're just shouting out all the ability names, but I think in the end, it probably will go more towards that just poker style. The host thing is interesting, but the problem with a TriCast is it's so much easier for people to start talking over each other. So you really all need, like what I've learned with TriCast is like you need to be sitting next to each other and you need a really strong host. This is another thing I learned from Magical. It's all about hand signals. Like you got the host and they're talking and they might be doing like sort of play-by-play. And then when a color wants to jump in, you just like take your hand and you put it on the desk and they'll acknowledge you and you can have a really clean passing off.
Yeah.
And I think that could work for TFT really well. But my guess is that the future will mostly evolve to pretty much two colors that just sit and discuss and very little hype and mostly like you're watching poker.
You bringing up poker actually makes me think because poker, depending on the broadcast, but poker, like the World Series of Poker, like the OG 2003, Lon McCarran, Norman Chad is a different format because Lon is the down the line play-by-play and then Norman is literally just saying jokes. Like part of it is like actual casting and then it's like
and
literally like
jokes.
Yeah.
You could totally do that with TFT.
I think we have some brainstorming to do, but
yeah.
Don't worry, man. We got that under control.
Yeah.
No, and I actually do want to provide a little bit of a counterpoint because if you do a TriCast, right, I understand that it's like beneficial to be next to each other, right? But instead of being, I think what that really speaks more.
Boop's just trying to say he doesn't want to be next to me, and he's just being.
Yeah, I mean a little bit, but what I'm actually trying to say is that so I've been casting for like 4 years now. I got my start in Hearthstone, and I've been doing it for a bit, and I'm kind of old hat at this point in time. And what I noticed about the TriCast, because the only time I've ever done one was for TFT, and it worked really, really, really well because one, there's a lot of really good dead space to where I think sometimes when two people on a game like TFT are talking, even if they're good casters, the direction of it can be a little bit more improved. And if you get a host who is strong in facilitating, it's more about that inherent trust that is increased by being next to each other, right? And knowing the cues of your casting partners, because when I did it with Kenobi and Blev, me as a person,
like a director.
because I like hang out with them a lot, I kind of know what they want to talk about, and I know their idiosyncrasies, and I know how they are gonna want to talk about this. It's just kind of like that, like little gentle tap on the butt, like, okay, guys, it's time to talk about this now because it's important now. And it felt really, really good to have kind of like that conductor, right? I think there can be a place for it. I just think that it's kind of like, and this is me being a rebel a little bit, casting's so new, right? And when it comes to like learning an instrument, there is a standard way of a couple standard ways of doing it, right? If you're going to learn a violin, you're going to do it Suzuki, or you're going to do it some other method.
Okay, we know you were a music major, but you don't need to keep flexing.
What I'm trying to say is that like in casting, since it's new, no one's really decided how any of it really goes, right? We know that especially in esports, because we're taking so much from traditional sports, right, on how to do our jobs, that I'd like to open it up a little bit more to some more risk taking, because I feel like sometimes we're kind of stuck in our lanes. When you hear something like that, what would be Like, what's your response to that? Because I think there's room for it, but we're just so used to the two people casting and just two people here, two people there, that it might just be a little too jarring to add a third person.
I think there's totally space for a third person, and you get a lot of the strengths that you just mentioned, particularly just having somebody whose sole job is to guide the conversation and also to just get the most out of the colors. And that's something that, a host is really, really good at, and also just like good play-by-plays in particular. The thing that's really nice about having two people, and a lot of times why tricasts are saved typically for bigger momentum games,
like for like finals and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, is that it's probably weird for a lot of people who aren't familiar with the casters, don't even know, can't identify them by voice or whatever. Just handling two people is much easier than handling three. And I know this just from like, if I started listening to a new podcast that has 3 hosts, I might not necessarily be able to identify who's talking because 2 of the 3 sound kind of similar, and maybe they're both named, whatever. There's like a John and a Tommy. And it's like, I don't know who's who. I get their points, but I can't like put the name to the voice yet because I haven't been listening for a while. With 2 voices, it's definitely a lot easier for that new person to just kind of like grasp these 2 different personalities. So that could be a way to come at it just for the new viewer, but for the experienced viewer, I think there's a lot more room for growing. But that's also, I have no idea. Maybe that new viewer, maybe we throw like 5 people in, and that new viewer has a great time.
It's like a Knights of the Round Table situation.
Yeah.
Right.
I do think there's diminishing returns at some point, but that's
maybe,
what. Okay.
Maybe instead of casting for TFT tournaments, you just put all 8 players on a live Discord call, and that's the commentary.
There'd be too much swearing and complaining about. Well, see, when I do the TriCast, I just do a cartoon voice so that everyone knows that there's a third person who's probably not human on the call as well. But let's move on here a little bit, and I wanted to sort of round out this interview portion with just let us know like what's going on in TFT Super League right now. Where and when can people see it? Let's get those details.
Totally. So right now, every Thursday, we run what's called City Exhibitions Teamfight Tactics. So we will have our episode 6. So we do an 8-episode run. I'll explain why in a second. Episode 6 will be this Thursday. It starts 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. And what we do is we pick 7 reps from 7 different Super League cities and just throw them in a lobby together. They play 3 rounds. And then pretty typical with TFT, depending on how you place, you get points. Whoever has the most points at the end wins. We give RP to the top 3 spots, and then we do 7 because there's no spectator client. And there's really 2 ways you could do TFT right now. One is to have 8 people play and stream you their views, and you switch around Twitch rival style. We do it where we're the 8th player. We sack. And over 3 games, the gold that you give away for free is pretty minimal because everybody gets it. And that way we can just like click around and we can zoom in like, who do we want to watch, blah, 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 da, da, da. You get the game chat too, which is fun. And over 3 rounds, it's fine. And then the top 7 from our like 7-episode run will then play against each other on 8 for double RP.
What are the 7 cities? Can you do them all off the top of your head?
Well, it's of 16, but I can give you all.
Okay.
I can give you all our 16 off the top of my head, and their team names. Actually, let's see: Los Angeles Shockwaves, San Francisco Ionics, Seattle Siege, Las Vegas Wildcards, Denver Drakes, Phoenix Blaze, Dallas Dynamite, Houston Blast, Chicago Force, Philadelphia Specters, Washington D.C. Conspirators, New York Fury, Boston Revolt, Atlanta Bashers. Tampa Bay Dungeoneers, and Miami Menace.
That's
Nice.
16. Congratulations. I don't know if I can remember 16 of anything. So
I can't even remember the first 16 numbers.
I've had a lot of practice.
Okay.
Those off.
So this is actually a really good follow-up because I'm from Denver. So
Cool.
like if I wanted to get involved...
Before you get into that, Boop, why is there no Buffalo team? I am enraged right now.
If I wanted to get involved in Denver, like how would I like get in with you guys, right? So like I'm just like I'm interested in this. I heard about Super League. Oh, I have a team. What should be like my next couple steps?
Really, your first step is just go to superleague.com and figure it out from there. Right now, most of our events are focused either online at home or at a gaming center where we run GG Circuit. So you would just find the closest gaming center to you. Basically, you put in your zip code, your address, you'll find a place to go. And from there, it totally depends on what's coming up. Right now, we have, let's see. I mean, it's not as compelling as what I was talking about with like City Champs. That stuff is coming up, soon, TM. But we do have, at least with TFT, weekly leaderboard challenges. So you'd find your LAN center, you go, you play TFT there, and then based on, I can actually look up the scoring right now of how this works. So if you link like your Super League account and the LAN center account, you're playing at that gaming center, and you play ranked TFT based on where you land. So if you hit first, you get 8 points, second, 7 points, all the way down. And then based on your rank, you get a multiplier. So like if you're challenger, we just multiply all your points by 5, etc. So that, that way you don't just smurf and play iron and get, first a bunch. You get a lot more points if you're playing on your main and you're high ranked. And whoever has the most points at the end gets SP, which you then use for vault prizes.
Cool.
That's really cool. I mean, it's not cool that there's no Buffalo team, which I will keep harping on until there is one. But
I'll work on it for you.
Okay,
hit
me up. I will.
Eventually, TFT City Champs. I'll work on it.
For all three of you in Buffalo,
hey,
I really want that team.
But we are bigger than most people, so no. There's
you specifically, or
yes,
Buffalo?
Me and Deathblow, who is my co-host for High Noon Podcast and is also a TFT caster, are two of the biggest people in esports. Period. Just physical.
Too much beef on wax.
Yeah, beef on wax. Yeah. Oh yeah. It's it's good stuff. But
I can't believe you said you're two of the biggest people in esports.
We are physically, like literally the big. We are. That is a technically true statement. Not in terms of following or influence or anything relevant, but in terms of physical mass.
That's like a slant lie.
We are
like there's slant rhymes. Almost, yeah, kind of. No. Yeah, just like how you're the #1 Blevins on Twitch.
That might actually be true as well. That might also be technically true, which is the best kind of true. But that's good. Super League is something that's really cool. If it was in Buffalo, I probably would be super, super into it. But we talked about in the pre-show that my closest one is
No, so there's at least what it was for City Champs. There is no Buffalo team, but I bet you there is a gaming center that we're active in closer to you. That is what we've been spending the most recent time on, is because before, when we were doing movie theaters, it's like, well, we can only be in 16 movie theaters. Now we're in hundreds of gaming centers, and now that we're rolling out through more and more gaming centers, the possibilities of what we can do in terms of location versus location competition is rapidly expanding. So I would just go to superleague.com and stay tuned for could be.
I can be that platinum ringer that everyone's looking for on their team, on their pro teams. But that's awesome, guys. Make sure you do check that out. And we are going to be back right after the break talking about the brand new B patch 9.24. We'll be right back. Stick around. If you want another way to support the show, head over to patreon.com/Little Legends Podcast and become a patron today. We've got all sorts of goals and tiers available, and we're open to suggestions as to what the other tiers should be. We'll be putting exclusive content. Videos, and other things on the Patreon, as well as giving you early looks at projects that we're working on. Head over to patreon.com/Little Legends Podcast right now. Welcome back, everyone. Hope you enjoyed the break. We're going to jump right back into it with 9.24 B patch. This is a big B patch. Mort did say on his stream, the B is for big. Mort said this is going to be one of the bigger B patches just because the holidays are coming up and they wanted to get the patch. They wanted to get the game in a good spot so that while we're playing all this time over the holidays, that we're not complaining incessantly about Twitter or about it. On Twitter.
I'm sure we still will be.
Absolutely, but hopefully a little bit less. So we'll start it out here. Mort actually did a stream yesterday. You can actually check out his YouTube. I'll post the link to his YouTube channel if you want to watch the whole video. But we've got the slides from that. So they're nerfing 3-star scaling. So instead of the health and attack damage values from 2-star to 3-star being 2x, it is now going to be 1.8x for those values. So, for example, a 3-star Nasus is going a Nasus is going to go from 650, 1170, 2340 HP to 650, 1170, 2106 HP. So that's like what, a 200-ish health nerf for 3-star, and then AD he's losing 18, so almost 20 attack damage on tier 3. I think this might be one of the bigger ones, like in general for the game in terms of the nerf here. What did you think about this one, Deef? This is like being like, hey, hyper rolling, not as good anymore.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know if they're taking it too far. It's really tough for me to like really look at those values and know how it's going to affect. I obviously have to play around with it or just watch people that are much better at it than I am tell me what they think. But it's always a problem when it becomes the dominant strategy, and it happened with set 1 too, when people were just like, dude, just go like PD Morello Garen and 3-star that, and you just start winning. And when it becomes the dominant strategy and like the best way to win, it's obviously a problem. And I think with the whole egg roll thing, it's kind of was doing that for a bit. So they had to figure out a way around it. I actually prefer the name Golden Army when you have all your 3-stars. But I think it was too strong. I think it does have to be nerfed. I just don't know if this is going to be too much or too little. It just needs to be a strategy and not the strategy.
Boop, what do you think?
You know, we got the opportunity to talk about this the last time. There was kind of like a no B patch, less B patch situation about what is like the correct way to play teamfight tactics, right? Like what is the original, like what is the strategy that you're going to try to learn when you first start? What will statistically be the best strategy? And, you know, this, and this, especially since hyper rolling is so interactive, like with the board, and it requires a lot of it requires a lot of knowledge of the game to do well. So I like the idea of hyper rolling being in the game, because I don't feel like it ever really got as toxic as the Kassassin back in set 1.
Oh.
Because exactly, because getting a 3-star should feel really rewarding, right? Because when you choose the hyper roll is almost like a feeling sometimes, right? Yeah, like there are strategies that are like after round 3 or after Krugs, you know, hyper roll until you get to 10, and you know you can do that, but sometimes the lobby doesn't let you, right? And I'm not sure the hyper roll comps were. I know egg roll is good, right? But I'm not sure any of those comps were necessarily like walking all over the other ones, if that makes sense. There were just a lot of hyper roll comps, right? So what do you do? Do you nerf comps or do you nerf a strategy? And this time around, they're trying the strategy side of it. And I can definitely see this being adjusted as time goes on, because a character like Nasus losing over 200 HP is nutty. Right. Yeah. And so like, why at that point spend your extra, I mean, for Nasus, it's 3 gold, right? But for everyone else, spend that extra gold, take 3-star unit when it's diminishing returns anyway. It might make that a little harder to do. But the other side of that equation, right, because I love arguing with myself, is the fact that it will force other strategies, right? Okay, if we take hyper rolling out, what will be the next thing? Are we going to move into what, you know, Shapeshifters was in the last patch, which was or Nobles, where you just were rich, right? Like the whole time you had to get to like 70 gold and like stay up there, right? Or will we find out that hyper rolling was one of the better ways of playing the game? This is how we're going to do it. So whatever it is, whether I agree with it or not, we'll learn what hyper rolling really means to us after this, if that makes sense.
No, it totally makes sense.
Yeah, one thing that Mort actually mentioned in the stream was this is not they've actually been talking about this for a little while. It's not specifically targeting egg roll, although it obviously affects egg roll in a big way, and a lot of the other comps that are hyper rolling in a big way. But what it does allow them to do is it opens up more space to actually expand upon the abilities. So if they just standardize the HP and AD jump from 1 to 2 star as well as 2 to 3 star, like you're still kind of keeping your tiers. It's like, do you want a 3-star, like where in the like unit tier, the raw unit tier list, do you want a 3-star Nasus or a 3-star Renekton to be? Is it above a 2-star brand? Is it above like where does that fit? And I think, you know, especially with Renekton before this patch, it was like Renekton was like a top 5 unit at 3-star, a top 5 reasonable unit. Like it was better than a lot of, or arguably all of the like tier 2 4-cost units. So they probably don't want that. So now it's like, okay, now it's rounding off the top of that. So your Nasus and your you know, whatever 1-cost tier 3 unit is not automatically going to be your hyper carry in the late game. It's like, well, I'm just going to be getting these and collecting them the whole game, and that's going to be my hyper carry. It's like they can still serve a role. They can still be a strong unit. Maybe it's as good as a 2-star 4-cost unit or something like that, or close to it. So it really depends on what they want to do, but they can even like make the abilities for the 3-star more unique. Like if they gave like tier 3 Renekton was like a big, like an expanded range or something, or tier 3 Nasus like
mobile game ads on YouTube. Level 0, I look like this. Level 25, I'm bigger, and now level 50, I have big hair.
Right.
It's
they could do something like that where it's like now like you get an added bonus or something for it instead of just stats. Because like at the end of the day, like if you want to win and min max, like yes, stats are good for you, but like it would be cool if you got, because like it feels cool to me though. It'll never happen. Like. Well, the Malphite could happen, but like Malphite does 1,000 damage with this ult at tier 3 now.
Yeah,
which I want to see, by the way.
Oh, me too. I want to see Mage Cap like in the Malphite double ult.
Yeah, I want to see.
Just to follow up on, and I think Boop really did say it best here, is that it should feel really good to 3-star something, and. Right now, and in set 1 too, it's like there are some units that had felt really good to 3-star, and sometimes it's just like, what's even the point?
Right.
Like, why should I 3-star Ivern? Like, do I really, like, how much do I really get out of it? It's like kind of cool, but it's like the difference between a 3-star Ivern and a 3-star Renekton, depending on your comp, is pretty sizable. So, and that's just like, and they're both you know low tier units, but no matter what they do, it should feel really cool, and that's kind of why I like what you just brought up with the Malphite and the 1,000 damage ult. It's gonna feel really good to 3-star Malphite, and I mean really good. And it should. I don't know if it should be as that good for every unit, but it should feel better to 3-star unit than it should to just like pick up brand.
Right. I think like they can play around with like just give it like a unique ability or something, even if it's not like objectively good, because like you just add stats to something, it's like, okay, it's very easy, like this is better because it does more damage or stuns longer or what, like
it's called trundling it.
Right. Yeah. Yes. But like maybe if 3-star Ivern gave 3 shields instead of 1 or something like that, that could be a cool thing where it's like, okay, that's not objectively better. It's hard to like. It's not objectively better than a 2-star brand, but it's giving you something
Lulu
completely
did
different.
in set 1.
Did she do more units if she was tier 3?
Yeah, she would Upsy Daisy more units.
Oh, I didn't even remember that. I mean, what's her name? God, the plants. Zyra. See, I'm remembering these. I need to. You know what I meant when I said what's her name? It was Zyra, obviously. Was that the one I forgot last time too?
Yeah, I was literally about to say that. This is like the 4th time you've forgotten Zyra's name, and you know it's
because
so funny.
I always say,
like,
"Give him the plants."
I always like think about like the fact if like this was a real person, right? And like you're at a party at this point in time, it's your fault, man. You know what I mean? Where you're like, hey, how do you spell that?
Plant lady. That's who I would. That's what I would call her in real life. Is plant
Poison
lady.
Ivy. Are you here? Yeah, I think what's really interesting about this is I'm not sure like when Kazakhstan was a thing, right? We all reacted to it when I
Yes.
just said the word, right? Like it
Yeah.
was it
I
was
reacted
brutal,
favorably,
right?
by the way.
Like
It was the only way to win.
exactly,
Mhm.
exactly.
And it's very similar to Demon Bear too. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
there were just these, and that was very early on in TFT, but there were just
Those
these
were the
comps
days.
that like were so good that you had to force it, and whoever forced it
Mhm.
better won the room. And
Yep,
that
whoever just
is
managed
it's a
their
really
money better, yep.
unhealthy. It's a really unhealthy way for TFT to exist.
Exactly. Exactly. And so now I wonder if the thought process behind this is just saying, you know what, we've got a ton of 3 stars in a lot of these lobbies. If you look at our like, because I think you're in our Discord now. If you look at our like winning builds, you'll notice that like every team will have like 3 or 4 3 stars, right? Something like this might cause you to say, you know what, because there are so many 3 stars, maybe that's why it doesn't feel as good, right? So let's limit the amount of 3 stars that people want to get because of the stat differences. So the ones that they do invest in inherently feel more rewarding, right? And so that could definitely be another way that they're looking at this. But I love hyper rolling. I mean, who doesn't love
Same.
pressing that reroll bar,
True.
right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Just
it's like opening Pokemon cards, right? It's like, yeah, exactly. It's like, oh no, I just lost $1,000. Okay, I'll bet $1,000 on this next hand, make it all back, right?
But I had a
Like,
lot of fun spending that $1,000.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And so like now that you're and there's no like compensation. That's the other thing that's a little confusing to me, right? That there it's just nerfing 3-star units. And
No
I just wonder
compensation
how,
yet.
yeah, and I wonder if this will like, man, the questions I have are like, is this going to extend or shorten game time? Is this going, you know what I mean? Like, is this going to cause economy pushing a little bit more, right? Are people going to start inting a little bit more to get that to that economy? Because you're no longer going to be potentially racing for some of these garbage 1-star units that don't tier 3 very well. Right, and we'll see, but they're going for something here, and I think they're attacking a problem that they might see being bad in the future. So, like, it's kind of like how the Hearthstone team said, our greatest regret is creating Stone Tusk Boar, which is a 1/1 unit with charge, and basically because of that card, there are hundreds of other cards that we thought of and couldn't make because of this one card. And I wonder if that's kind of some of the process going into nerfing 3 stars too. Is just like, down the road, this might actually be like a way bigger issue. So let's cut it down now and experiment with how we diversify team comps rather than making hyper rolling really fun for everybody and just making it disappointing when you can't.
Yeah,
they are getting us ready for the scientist synergy that reduces the gold cost of units in your hand. Heard it here first, folks. You'll probably never hear it again because it's a really stupid idea.
I like how all you got was a
Yeah, that was more than it deserved, honestly. Let's move on here and talk about some of the other changes. Assassin, 3-piece assassin is now only going to do 50% bonus crit damage, down from 75%. 6-piece assassin is staying at 150% crit damage. Electric, they're basically reverting the changes that they did last patch. Electric was pretty strong. As we see, like, Volibear as one of the most contested units in the game right now. I was playing today and I just could not find a Volibear. I found 7 Olafs before I found 2 Volibears.
That's nuts. I mean, because it's also just so much easier to get Ornn and Volley pretty early.
Yeah.
I mean, going down the line Electric is really tough because you gotta find that Zed. But yeah, if you make 2-star Electric too strong, then it's just a really easy thing to go, and it's so easy to just transition into a Zerkers.
Yeah, and I think it kept you in the game a little bit too easily, right? Like, it was just you hit your Electric, right, and then you're probably going to be fine for a bit.
Right, and unlike Woodland Druid, it actually just naturally transitioned into a very good comp, like, just seamlessly.
Yeah.
But the changes, so 2-piece Electric is going from 100 damage down to 80, so a slight buff from what it was 1.5 patches ago. And then 3-piece Electric is going from 300 damage to 250. and 4-piece electric is staying at 500. If you get that Lux, they're saying, you know what, you got it. You get your full damage still.
Oh, but if you're going for full electric, you should deserve it because it's such a risk.
Yep, absolutely.
It's such a
Yeah,
risk.
yeah. It's whenever you have like two low cost units, and the other ones are a 7 cost and a 5 cost unit, right?
Yeah,
like
we'll give that one to you.
Yeah, you're crazy, and we're rewarding you for it. Thank you.
Yeah.
I love it. Inferno is actually getting a buff here, going from so 3-piece Inferno is staying at 70% damage over 4 seconds. 6-piece Inferno is going up to 140 from 120, and 9-piece Inferno is going from 180 up to 210% over 4 seconds. Really just a, hey, we wanted the like all-in Inferno build to be good, and the payoff wasn't there, so they added a little on top for us. I don't think this one's going to be as big of an impact. I think it's still going to be just as reasonable to go 9 Inferno. And even 6 Inferno. It's like, I tried it, and I'm like, oh, this is cool. I'd rather win, though. Maybe this will give us a little bit more, but I don't think so. And then the last trait change here is on Shadows, going from 3-piece Shadow is going from 70% bonus damage down to 60. 6-piece Shadow still staying at $140. Kind of a little bit of a marginal change, though. It's paired with a Senna nerf that we'll talk about as well. But Shadow kind of came out of the woodwork here from the rework and really has been a player in a bunch of different comps. Boop, what do you think about these Shadow changes?
Well, it's just anytime a dev like works with like the same, the Shadow's been touched, I think, the last 3 or 4 patches in a row, right? So it was kind of like they were trying to push it into something the last time, and they're like, hold on a second, the speed limit is 10 under what you're going, son. Right? Let's bring it back. All right, you're driving a little crazy for my liking. The arm's already like the arm's on the thing, which is like, don't ever do that with me in the car. I don't know why it makes me so livid. But when someone puts their hand like on the safety thing, I take it as like
a specific pet peeve. It's
I
know,
man. I take it as like such a personal attack. Just like be like, just tell me I'm driving poorly. All right, don't like be all dramatic about it and put your hand.
I hard disagree. Like I put my hand. It has nothing to do with the person driving. It's just like it's just comfortable. I just want to hang out.
I mean,
well, I'm also a bad driver, so it's kind of like everything I'm already self-conscious about in my driving.
Boop.
Right?
I'm the same way as Deef here. I just put my hand there for comfort, except when I'm specifically driving with you, in which case it is in fact a reflection of your poor driving.
Thank you. I appreciate it. This is a reflection of your bad podcasting. Anyway,
and delete stream.
All right. No, what I'm thinking about Shadow is I think Shadow, like inherently because of its name and like what like the aesthetics behind it, I think people will naturally be attracted to in terms of trying to go after, right? Because I was thinking about that the other day. It's just kind of like if you were given this list, right? Assassin, Electric, Inferno, Shadow, right? The 3 of us, and I was just like, pick what you think sounds the coolest, right? One of us might pick Inferno, one of us might pick Assassin, one of us might pick Shadow, or all 3 of us might pick Shadow because it sounds cool, right? And so more people might be willing to try something like Shadow out, and if it's too good already, then what are you doing with it, right? I don't know.
That might be the most crackpot theory I've ever heard about TFT.
No, I actually think it's pretty legit. I remember when I looked at originally when I looked at the different things, it's like, oh, Shadow's cool. And then you've got, I mean, Senna wasn't out there, but Kindred, there are these champions that are like, look really great. And it's like, oh, they do more damage and they reset. It's like, it just feels like a really fun way to play the game. It has a cool sound. I actually do think there's a lot of value in that.
That's why I was so attracted to Yordles. That it was a cool ability. It was cool Yordles.
No.
I was great at Yordle comps.
Same.
No, God.
My girl. My girl.
All
Poppy Watch 2019.
Yes.
No.
She was good.
I climbed to plat in season 6 playing Poppy support primarily.
Poppy support's legit. I actually really like Electrocute Poppy Jungle as like the off Poppy build.
I did. I mean, before it was Electrocute, when it was Thunder, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would go 12-18-0 in the old Masteries with Thunderdome. I'm gonna call it Poppy Sport, but I digress.
But basically what I'm trying to say is just like the popularity of these builds, I think, might be
The
affecting.
popularity.
Affecting balance a little bit. And why am I surrounded by awful people?
One of us.
Sorry.
One of us. One of us.
And so I think it makes you look at things like Shadow a little bit more frequently, and they're going to be able to identify data points a lot easier because there's more of it because of the popularity. And so that's why I think they keep messing with it so much, is because it's something that a lot of people like doing, and it needs to feel good when they do it.
It's also, I mean, to a lesser, or well, in other games to a bigger extent, it's like when you have like a character that's like the definition of the brand of the game, like they put more focus on that character to have them in the limelight and playable, because like that sells copies, and like they want, this hero to be played more because
Riot has been accused of like, oh, I'm going to release this character super strong so a bunch of people buy that character in the skin, and then we'll nerf it after a while, put it into balance. And I think that's all.
Zhao came out. I bought him. I bought that. It was as bad as people would say it was.
I think that might have been the most overpowered champion to ever be in the game. Released
sure.
Zhao.
I remember him being extremely good, because like when I was doing all right, that meant he was overpowered.
You should value your skill a little bit more.
I was actually decent back in 2010.
Yeah.
But now, no. I'll get there.
2010.
No, literally in 2010. That was literally when
a decade ago.
played,
yeah. Any other thoughts on this stuff, guys?
No. I mean, I think. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, the general takeaway. I mean, it's only these four, but it's the one very obvious theme is that they're just trying to push people into kind of going all in on one. Very, very slightly, but and it's only four of the many options. But a lot of the big comps right now are blends, if you will. But it's just like a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of that. Blenders. But it seems like maybe they're gonna try toying with making just kind of going all in on a trait a little more rewarding.
The vertical comps, if you will.
Yeah, vertical comps. I mean, the light comp is a lot of fun too, but it's just saying, you know what, I am going, all in on Inferno, things like that, or like the reward you get for going all in on Electric. It seems like maybe they want to try to lightly encourage people to just all in on a vertical.
Well, I think it's still like if we're talking about competitive and high level, challenger level, or whatever tournament level, it's still probably not good to go 9 Inferno, right? It's not going to be reasonable to do that. 6 Inferno is maybe a niche, like you spike it sometimes and you get it, but it's probably still going to be in most comps across, hundreds of games of sample size. It's still going to be a blend a lot of the time, unless something is more pushed or not, depending on the patch. But what it does do, and I think that Mort has actually mentioned in streams and in tweets and whatnot, is like when you have those numbers and it's like at least playable. New player comes in, and I actually had this experience when I was playing with a friend who had never played before, and they're like, what do I do? And I'm like, well, I'm not going to tell you the meta, because that's not, I'm like, here, do this. Just take every single light unit. Just take every light unit and put them in. And like, you're going to be reasonable. You're going to be doing things. You're going to be things are going to start to click for you a little bit. And then you can start to see what they do and whatnot. But you're like getting at least like you're getting natural power spikes by getting to 3, 6, and 6 light, 3 and 6 Inferno, et cetera, et cetera. So it definitely puts those like natural, like, not bumpers, but like guiding lines for new players to be like, I'm just gonna, you know what, I'm gonna pick every Inferno unit, I'm gonna try to get those in and hit those points, and maybe, oh, if I get 3 Inferno, I can also get 3 Shadow in, because there's overlap here, and you're starting to learn that stuff naturally. So it's very useful to have those things be attainable, even if they're not tournament meta good.
Yeah, for sure.
And they're obviously, the developers' minds are going to be looking to that as well, because it's not just the tournament players that fuel it. So let's move on here and talk about some champs that got changed. Nocturne, the blender. We're powering down the blender. Going from
Sorry, Sphinx.
40, 60, 80%. He's on new stuff. 40, 60, 80% passive healing for his ability to 40, 45, 50. Rip tier 3 Nocturne. Boy, oh boy, is that hurt.
I mean, tier 2 also hurts, man.
Yeah.
That's 15% last pass. That's crazy.
Yep. It's big. It's big, but he
I
was
mean, at this point, he should just be a 2-star unit.
I mean,
Don't do my Nocturne like that.
he's still going to be strong. He's just not going to be like meta warping and like, they got dispatched. Not on the same level, but like if you consider Kassassidon like S plus tier or like S plus plus unachievable ever again tier, this was like a tier in terms of like you got the spatula, you get the Blade Master on Nocturne. It's that powerful. Like comparatively, it was still like a tier below, maybe even a tier and a half below, but like it's still like, well, you got your Blade Master Nocturne, which when he attacks, he gets double chances at the proc because his ability is also an attack, so you get 2 chances for the proc there, and then when he spins, each of those spins also count as an attack, which can also trigger Blade Master. So it's like, well, I guess you just get the blender, okay? You turn on the blender and you just ramp it up, and it just kills everything. And because the steel buff, you literally can't even like get lucky and spike and kill him because he has that natural protection built in. So it's a lot of things that they that all lined up into him being really, really powerful. So they're really blunting the sharpness of the blades in Blender now. I personally think it's a good thing. Next change here is going to be Zed. His AD is going from 80 down to 70. His armor is going from 30 down to 25. The one thing that Mort mentioned on the stream that I thought I didn't realize and was like, wow, looking back, it was kind of crazy that this was the case. But Zed had the highest base AD in the game, which makes sense for a 5-cost unit, but he's a 5-cost unit that makes more copies of himself.
Yeah.
And he has the highest base AD in the game, more than Master Yi. It's like, yeah, maybe they should have just changed that in the first place. What do you guys think? Deef, we'll start with you.
I don't know. I'll have to play with it. I don't know. I think honestly, maybe the armor might be a bit more of a change, because I think just being able to kill him faster before the shadows or not the shadows, I guess the summons. I always think it's really funny that Zed has 3 things and none of them are shadow, but anyways, that the summon, it's just about being able to burst him before the summons get out of control. So I think that's actually going to be a bigger change than the AD, even though it's a smaller numerically. And I don't think a lot of people were building AD items on Zed anyways to boost that. It was just mostly mana and just trying to get as many summons as possible. So I actually see the armor change as a bigger deal.
Yeah, and the armor change is like, adds up, right? It's not just 5 right now. He's going to be just taking more damage in general, which, like you said, if someone's bursting you down or maybe like you're facing off a predator comp, he's going to get down to that execution level way quicker.
Yeah. 30 to 25 is a massive change.
Yeah. And especially like if you compare it against some other things, right? Like to get below 30 for the type of characters that is, right? It's really forcing him to like do something with it, right? You're starting to like, because this is the other thing, like with 5-cost units, like it's another thing you have to invest in, right? 5 gold is a lot, right? Gold in this game is everything. And so when you invest 5 gold into something, right, it needs to work really well. But sometimes I think it works too well, and I think this is just bringing them down to something a little bit more manageable. Because these are changes that they could revert or switch back. Because like Riot also likes, you've been playing for a while, Deef, so you know Riot likes like increasing armor by 2, right? Attack damage going
580.
Attack damage going from 63 to 65. Right. Yeah. So like they're okay with making those kinds of changes. So maybe we'll see like Zed's armor go to 27 or the ZAD go back to 75 in the future. But I think that he also feels really overwhelming, and that's bad for just like going up against it because again, fun and interactive, right? And I think these changes overall are good for that reason.
He just had everything and also made more of himself, which also had everything. So, also hinted a little bit at maybe doing a more systematic change of Zed in the future, but not something that they're going to do on a B patch. So keep an eye out for that. This next one was one that hit me personally a bit here because after Eric Thomas showed me the Senna Rangers, Senna Shadow Rangers, or Go Shadow Rangers comp. Sorry. I have just been forcing this to pretty good success, and now Senna is getting a nerf for her ally buff from 25, 45, 75 to 15, 30, 55 damage. It's not a huge nerf. It's obviously like any nerf to her is gonna be big, but she still like the actual like magic damage that she's providing wasn't the biggest thing. It was the fact that she gives your whole team Morellos with her ability.
Yeah.
Which if you guys didn't know this, because I was playing with some people and they're like, "What should I put on Senna?" I'm like, "Well, the one item you need is Morellos." And like, why? Like, because it gives your whole team Morellos, and they're like, "Wait." That's how that works. Yes, it does. Because it's weird because it gives them bonus magic damage from her. So it's like she's kind of it works. Just trust me, it works. It's really good. But I mean this, like, I think this is part of the reason that the Shadow nerf was only a 10% on 3-piece. It's because they also did this, and they've been really good at, like, we're not just going to lop everything off. We're going to do take a little bit off of here and a little bit off of here so you can still play the stuff around. What do you think, Boop?
I actually haven't gotten I haven't played a lot.
Right, you've been away.
Yeah. I've been away from my computer.
Big shot
so, like,
mess with Overwatch casting.
I'm sorry. Hashtag actual bragging. But no. So like, we did our show last week on Tuesday, and I flew out the next day. And so like I haven't gotten to like really I've watched some videos to like kind of like stay up to date. I think the aesthetic of Soulbound is pretty sick. Right. Cool. I also play I also like am very good at playing Senna mid lane in regular League of Legends. Because in my team, the one that we have for Clash, I usually am an AD carry player. And we have another one at AD carry, so I had to move mid, and so I was just like, I'm just gonna play AD carries mid. I don't care what you guys say.
How do you build AD carry? I mean, Senna mid, just out of curiosity.
I do it with Dark Harvest and
did you do
Mirror Mana
lethality?
build. Yeah, Mirror Mana lethality.
Cool.
The Dark Harvest is the most fun part about that. Because I just love that sound that when you get the Dark Harvest stack just feels so good. It's like one of the most satisfying. It literally is like, you know, when you have a pimple on your face and you get it out and you're just like,
why are we talking about this again?
Because you know what I mean, right?
Oh, I wish I did.
There is a reason why Dr. Pimple Popper
It's like
is one of the...
It's like when you bite into a roasted Feather Knight leg.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah, exactly. And the juice just squirts all over your face.
No, it's when you crack up what's the new one? What was the new one called? When you crack one of those open and just see the delicious caramel insides and
just rub your face all in it.
Oh god.
Yeah. Okay.
If we haven't already lost subscribers.
I mean, at this point, you're in it to win it with us.
True.
We ain't gonna change.
That's true. We are doubling down on this.
We're leading in. So yeah. So I've been seeing that Senna and Lucian have been on the stronger side. I've been watching some streams and seeing this. The crazy thing is like sometimes, especially with new characters, like you'll be like, okay, they're new. Like maybe the community just needs to like learn how to counter this, or maybe there's an itemization we're all missing, because that's happened in the past. I'm blanking with it, but like in other metas and other games, sometimes just time is how you get rid of that meta.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's pretty telling that it's this kind of nerf this quickly.
Yeah.
Right? Showing how strong it actually was. So if I were you, I'd probably be picking up Senna and doing a bunch of comps with her. I know she's super contested, but this is showing you that, all right, this person's pretty good. I should maybe use her while I can for some free love.
I really like the Lucian light comp, where you just put as many damage items on Lucian, you put a GA on Senna,
Mm-hmm.
and then light everything else. And then you just put Lucian in the front line. He dies, but it doesn't actually die.
Yep.
And just keeps doing damage untargetable until you get through Senna's GA.
Yeah, it's really strong. I haven't been able to actually get the light build of it to work, but I've worked the Lucian in the Rangers comp and the Shadow Summoners. It's like it's really good. I've just like Senna has quickly become one of my favorite units, especially on ocean maps because she just pops that her alt immediately when she's on an ocean tile. So been a real favorite for me, and I'm hoping that she stays relevant at least, which I think that she will. Next up is the Sad Mummy Amumu. Mana is going from 5150 to 5125, and the Amumu spell range is getting flattened out here. It's going from 2-3-4 hexes to just 3 across the board. Makes the 1-star Amumu, I think, a little bit more reasonable to actually get an alt off because and like better when you get it because like it was a little tiny baby alt, and he's a little tiny baby that dies really quickly. Now he's got a little bit of a chance, at least, to get one alt off at tier 1. It's like I just never wanted to run a tier 1 Amumu unless I got him super early. But like even then, I just was like, I'll run Nasus before until I get a Amumu too. It was bad. Deef, have you had any experience with Amumu yet?
No, I'd agree with you there. And similarly, back to that conversation of when you 3-star unit, it should feel good. When you buy a 5-cost unit that you can put into your comp, it should feel really good. So I kind of like that they're flattening it out because you're never gonna get a 3-star Amumu. I've never seen a 3-star Amumu. I mean, it's possible, but it's just not gonna happen. So nobody's really missing out on that 4-hex ult.
Right.
But the fact that you can now play that 1 cost and get the 3-hex ult, I think, does make a big difference. Combined with the fact that they're just buffing Infernal a little bit. So I'm sure it'll play better. But I don't know. I'll have to still try it. I rarely ever go all Infernals. I feel like most of the comps are much more physical heavy now that everybody's going for. But it'll be worth trying out.
Yeah, I just hope he's playable. Like it always stunk when there's like that 1 5-cost unit that's like, okay, here's another Misfortune. It's like,
oh God, Misfortune.
Remember old Misfortune before they like fixed her targeting? It's like, oh God, you'd rather have like
you're just here to give my Jinx Gunslinger.
Yep,
I know,
exactly.
right? Oh my God, Misfortune. But part of me like misses it. You know what I mean? Like part of me like that was like part of like that was like an ingrained part. You knew you played TFT if you like brought up Misfortune, and then everyone was just like, oh. Yeah. Misfortune. That was just like
one unit.
Yeah, I know, right? Lucky. That was like a part of like early TFT. Like we were there for that. You know what I mean?
I committed Morello to you.
Yeah, exactly.
And you decided
sorcerer, to make this work, and like you're just hurting me, Misfortune. And then like they tried like 4 times to make it better, and then it never worked. She still would ult awfully. And we were all there for that. You know what I mean? It's like when you're at a startup and you're like employee number 3, right? That's us. We made League of Legends, guys.
You know what? That's true. We did.
Do we have stock options?
Yeah.
Yes,
right?
except the Misfortune IPO failed horribly and crashed. Before we keep talking about old set 1 stuff that's triggering me in many ways, let's talk about Ashe spell AD going from 25%, 30%, 35 to 30, 35, 40. This is again a smaller change for Ashe, but she just like really. Anytime I had Rangers, it's really hard to itemize her. She never felt like I always like wanted to go the Kindred route or even like the Ezreal route. Like always felt stronger in this Rangers comp in set 2 because she's just so like bland. Like Crystal is not. It's like built-in defensive items on your offensive unit, which it's good so that she doesn't get bursted down immediately, but it just never felt great. And obviously she doesn't have Glacial anymore. She's not really providing you anything else offensively besides the Ranger buff, so it just always felt better to put the items on someone else, and now she's at least getting a little bit of extra attack damage. But I'm not. I don't know. I'm not sold on Ashe.
I don't think it's gonna make. I don't think it's gonna make too much of a difference.
Yeah, same. Let's move on.
Yeah, I'm not sold on Ashe. I do like
Poor
Ashe,
Ashe.
but not sold there. Speaking
Wow,
of
she's
not
skipping
sold,
leg day.
yeah. Speaking of not sold, we are getting Twitch buffs, which I love to see. Twitch.
You
is
know
one of my
what?
favorite
You know
units.
what? Twitch might be this set's misfortune. He's not 5-star, but I think he's maybe the closest to it.
It's close, but they are pushing him. He's going from 60 to 65 AD, and his mana is now going from 90, or his from 090 to 070. I mean, they're pushing it, right? Like, the problem is, it's like both Ashe and Twitch feel like they should be 3 cost instead of 4 cost. They don't feel. Go ahead.
I mean, if I'm going Poison Predator, I'm still putting my items on Singed.
Yeah.
Absolutely, you're still putting your items on
So-
Singed or even Mundo,
Even
or
Kog'Maw.
Kog'Maw. Yeah, or Kog'Maw.
Like Kog'Maw is just a better unit than Twitch. Twitch
Yeah.
just kind of fills it out.
hmm
Yeah,
but-
and he's more there to like apply poison to everybody. But when
Yeah.
you have a Singe that's gonna do it anyway,
Right.
right? Like they're just like he's just extra. He's like a win more type of situation, and not even that, right? He's just like also like visually you can't really see what's going on when he's ulting, and like he's
I
just
think
like
it was bugged for a while too.
he's arguably the most disappointing unit in the set. But not all units are supposed to be good, right? It's just that he's 4 cost, so you're like, what the hell, guys?
Mhm.
Right? But
Give me
Well,
something on him. I mean,
yeah, but he's now going to be applying poison to like the entire enemy team way quicker now. So
it's true.
utility is something that you don't necessarily see the effectiveness of until like someone kind of points it out, right? So it might be better in that way. I think this is a better change for Twitch than those Ashe changes are for Ashe.
Sure.
For sure. I mean, 20 mana drop is huge. So, like you said, just that applying poison, I think it's valid. But like, it's not it's not gonna make me put items on Twitch.
Right. He needs to like.
Not going to put Hurricane on Twitch. 3
I mean,
Hurricanes.
I did in before they nerfed Hurricane, which was really early on. It was like put 2 Hurricanes and like red buff on him, and he just applied red buff to everything. But now I can do that with Senna at a 2 cost unit and 1 item instead of 3 items on a 4 cost unit. Or like it's just like, and it's like, yes, he applies it faster, but he doesn't, like we said, it doesn't apply it faster than Singed or even Mundo. Honestly, with Berserker, like you can apply it faster with Mundo. So he still feels very much like a placeholder. Like you'll run like if you had a 2-star Twitch, you'd probably run it over your 2-star Kog'Maw, maybe. But yeah, like the problem is that you're not incentivized to commit to the 2-star Twitch. So you'd have to like be given a pack with 3 Twitches in it, and they're all glowing, and they'll say, "We'll give you 100 riot points to pick these 3 in order to actually pick them." So probably not looking at Twitch anytime soon. But maybe, I mean, again, it's hard for us to just look at the numbers and be like, this is a big or a small change. It seems small, but it could actually be relevant. But let's move on to other small changes. Brand getting his mana max reduced back down to 80 from 90. Brand went from Omega Lol super OP to kind of medium, even on the bad side, and with how the meta is shaped out, looking pretty bad. And this, I think, just kind of, gives him a little bit of a nudge back up. I don't think it's going to change too much. It just seems like people have kind of moved away from mages, but he's still doing a lot of damage with his ult, and it's just going to, like, the earlier it happens, the better, right? So there's more targets to bounce around. So
to hop on that, how sometimes you don't see changes until a lot, like, later down. When the meta moves back to mages, I imagine that people go right back to brand, and we just don't see it right now because everybody's focused on AD heavy comps.
right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. it's tough to really see how strong a unit is when you're not regularly putting 3 completed items on them. So,
Yep.
definitely good for him. Good for the mage players out there, which are few and far between right now, but that will certainly change. This might be one of the bigger changes that seems smaller because it's on a 1-cost unit. Zyra spell damage going from 70, 80, 90 to 55, 65, 75.
That's nuts.
Holy nerf.
That's a huge nerf.
Rip plants. Just like, do not like the plants. I'm glad about this, honestly. She was just annoying.
She's still probably going to be good.
Yeah.
Like, because she applies. The thing about the plant is just
Yep.
like how we were talking about Twitch and Poison.
Mhm.
It's the same thing with her and Inferno, right? And that early
And
on,
Morello.
yeah, and like that early on, it's not necessarily the plant's damage that's really doing work. It's the Inferno proc that's doing a lot of damage, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
early on, like basically you're using Zyra as an Inferno proc now, as opposed to actually pushing out damage. And for a 1-cost unit to have damage and that proc stacking on top of each other with Morello's, that was way overloaded.
Yeah, I think she was one of the best tier 1 units
Mhm.
for sure. And I agree that she probably still will be good, but it's needed.
Yeah, she had all of the stuff that you guys are talking about, the procking, the damage, etc., but also was like a really good like binder between comps. Like she's Inferno and Summoner, which is a really good like mix, and like you can get her in Mage, Summoner, Warden type comps as well, and she just like was good all around. So they took some of that off, which makes sense because she costs 1 gold. Last unit change here is going to be Rek'Sai going from 65 down to 60 attack damage. Thumbs up, I guess. Cool. I guess like a kind of a nerf to Blender because it's the second steal, but I don't know if Rek'Sai's
Well,
attack
the next
damage
thing
is-
we'll talk about is yet another potential nerf to Blender.
True. Yeah, I don't know how much Rek'Sai's attack damage is really the problem here. But yes, last 2 changes here are going to be Hush and Swordbreaker, both going, their proc chances are both going from 33% down to 25. So now seeing it, instead of 1 out of every 3 attacks, it's procking 1 down to 1 out of every 4. So this is a pretty big one.
Yeah, and part of that Blender comp was Hush on Sivir.
Mm-hmm.
And just with those double attacks, more chances to apply Hush. I mean, yeah, 1 out of 3, 1 out of 4, it could be a change, but like, it's still something that's kind of hard to see.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, but maybe people just opt out of that utility choice and instead just go for more damage.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not like necessarily like on average 1 out of 3, 1 out of 4, right? Because it's a 25% per auto attack, so you're still going to potentially get procs 2 times in a row, right?
Mhm.
So
That's true.
we'll see. You know what I mean? So like you're less likely to get the proc every single auto attack, but you're still able to do it potentially 3 times in a row and still make it happen. And
Right.
so yeah, you know, and I'm okay with these 2 items. I think in particular are some of the least interactive in the game, that and Ionic Spark. And I have opinions on these 2 particular items along with Ionic Spark that I've belabored on about for a very long time. I don't think these should be in the game, personally.
I think Mort might agree with you, honestly, about Hush and
I'll-
Swordbreaker.
I'll have this convo with you. It's very similar to like the problem with the Hex Tech set in set 1. It
Phantom.
was like, yeah, and Phantom. It's like, and that was a problem that TFT was kind of moving in that direction. I'm really happy they reset on set 2. But it sucks when the optimal strategy is to prevent your opponent from doing what they want to do
and having
rather
fun,
than
right?
Yeah, rather than just like living out your fantasy of like I want to like do this really cool thing, and then everybody who builds the thing that nullifies you rather than just like going shooting for the moon themselves. Like everybody should shoot for the moon, going for like their ideal self rather than shooting for that comp that is like, no, I'm just going to prevent everybody else from playing, and that's how I'm going to win. And that's just it's not
totally
as fun.
agree. Swordbreaker more so than Hush, because silence is like something that's in games. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm like more okay with
Hearthstone player.
and I'm more okay with silence because like it's ultimates, like it takes a while to get there. When you do, it's really frustrating, but eventually you'll be able to use it. With Swordbreaker, it's like tough loss, guy. We're not going to be playing the game for a quarter of a second, right? And oh, and by the way, you can't do anything about it. There's no counter. If it procs, it procs, and then you get your ult and you can use it. But haha, joke's on you. This person also has a hush, and so like hush is bad. I think more so because Swordbreaker's in the game, and I think Swordbreaker and Disarm just like again, this is something in game balance that you always go back to. Is this fun and interactive? And Swordbreaker is definitely not interactive, in my opinion. The biggest problem I have is with Ionic Spark because it's free damage just for having an item. But these two I think are also notorious. Like these remind me of like those Stone Tusk Boar that I talked about earlier, right? Like these two items might fall into that category of, oh, we want to put this in the game, but we can't because Swordbreaker's here. Right.
Someone that applies on hit to everyone on the team or something would be tough. And I think this is all like they talked about it in the set 1 like look back where they're like, we want to not have hard counters in the game, and these feel very close to hard counters, if not just exactly hard counters. So I would be surprised if we saw these items in set 3 for sure, and even if we saw set 2 end with these items as they are. As we know in patch 10.1 there are going to be changes which we'll be talking about in a later episode. But I think when you bring up the like these items preventing the fantasy, it's like when you think about it, like the ultimate fantasy for something like whether it's TFT or any other card game, it's like you want to see 100 wizards fighting against 100 different but equally strong wizards. Like that's the most epic thing you can have, right? But if it's like you have one wizard preventing the other person from having any other wizards, that's not fun or compelling at all. That's how I break it down in my mind, but I'm an idiot. So
true.
That
first step to recovery is admitting it.
That is true. I'm admitting it, but I'm not doing anything about it. So I'm not doing step 2, but that's okay. And that is patch 9.24b. Overall, Deef, what do you think about this B patch? Yes, no, thumbs up, thumbs down?
I'd say overall thumbs up. I don't have a problem with anything here. There was no real complaints. I think it's great. Obviously the Senna nerf sucks because I think anybody who was playing her was having a great time.
Yep.
But otherwise it all feels pretty good. I'm happy about the Nocturne nerf mostly. I'm happy to see Hush and Swordbreaker go down for the reasons we just talked about. I think I'm all for it. I think, and then just to bring it back to the 3-star, I hope that the 3-star nerf is not too much. Right. And I imagine if it is, we'll just see them adjust that knob right back to the other side.
Yep, for sure. Boop. Thumbs up, thumbs down on the B. The B
thumbs
side.
up. I'm not doing this to gas them up, but like the fact that I think these are some of the most responsive devs I've ever had the pleasure of playing their game for. And I'm just like so excited that even though I don't necessarily agree with all changes that they've made, I always feel like there's no change that I'm ever like, what? There was one when they buffed Gnar. Like a while ago.
Which time was it in a row? Was it the second or third or fourth time that
I think it was the last time. And I was like, I remember in that show, I was like, guys.
Did Gnar get buffed 4 patches in a row?
Yeah. No, funny story on that. Hold on. Grandma, are you on the phone? What was the thing you tweeted at the dev and they made the change for? The builds? Oh, on the left side? The comps. So my boss, Grandma, at one point tweeted, I don't know if he tweeted at Mort or somebody else, but he complained because we were doing our broadcasts that once we died, when we'd click around to spectate, it would hold our comps on the left side rather than showing the thing of who you're clicking. And he tweeted at him just being like, hey, could you install this change? It would be really cool. And it was like, yeah. And then boom.
Yeah.
So like talk about responsive devs, like we have had that experience and it made a massive difference.
Yeah, exactly. And just like their decision making always has logic behind it, right? And they're okay with pushing something that they know might irk some of us, but could be healthier for the game. And they've rolled back things that they've realized, like the demon, like that demon buff that they made like a while ago, right?
Oh.
Like, and how toxic that was. They were like,
God
"Oops,
damn
sorry." Like they straight up were like,
Jeff
"This
Martin.
isn't fun. We're taking it out."
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I'm very lucky to be a part of that this kind of community to where like that's the kind of changes that they're looking at, right? The numbers can change and I can nitpick certain things, but overall everything always seems to have logic behind it, and I can't say that about many other games out there. And
Well,
and
you
the
don't like
you come from
Galakron,
Blizzard,
Shaman?
and the patch and the patches come at like I think other than that one time it was 3 weeks with no ranked. They seem to like be super responsive. Like they see the game somewhere and they're a lot more proactive than some other devs can be too. So overall, I think this is great. I'm actually really curious to see where these 3-star changes take us in terms of where comps go. If we're even going to see any less hyper rolling, right? Like because it feels big, but is it? Right? Are 3 stars just that good to where you could just keep doing what you were doing and still find success because everything got nerfed, right? So everything's going to get put on the same playing field again. So we shall see. But overall, I'm happy with it.
Yeah, I'm giving a big thumbs up to this one, even though like again I'm not the biggest fan of the Senna personally. I think it's good for the game. I think they're just kind of taking a lot of the pointy edges and sanding them down a little bit for this B patch, which is nice. And one thing I did want to mention is that Mort actually brought up that they're not going to take rank down for the next set like they did for this one. So our whole episode of me complaining about it did not fall on deaf ears. So I'm very happy about that. But we are actually running pretty long here, so real quick, we had some news items here. I'm just gonna throw the show notes in the link in the description, guys, if you want to check those out. I'll throw some links in there for you. You can check out. We had some Fight Night, some Heroes for Fight Night stuff. There's an interview that Travis Gaffer did with Mort, which I suggest you listen to. Some of it is a little bit older because it was from All Stars, but you can check that out. We don't have time for... Yeah, we don't really have time for this. So we'll get into the end of show stuff in just a second. But Deef, I just wanted to say thanks for coming on the show, man. Really had a blast.
Yeah, thanks for calling me one of us. I had a great time.
Yes, a filthy Yordle player like myself. Yeah, so
But see, even Yordles was like part of that problem where you're just preventing the enemy player from doing what they want to do.
Very good point. I 100% agree with that. It was
but you had counterplay, bro. Wilds and RFC,
one
bro.
Item. Never mind.
Wilds and RFC. But yeah, so remind us one more time where we can find Super League stuff and when it is and all that good stuff.
Yeah, so superleague.com is the best place to go, but twitch.tv/superleague this Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. You can see how we do a TFT broadcast. It's a whole lot of fun. And then the big final will happen on January 16th, where we're going to have the 7 people who won in each of their pools all against each other. There's 30,000 RP goes to top place, so should be fun.
That is a spicy meatball. I love it.
You got to buy a lot of little legends with that.
That's true. Ooh, a lot of delicious, tasty little legends. But that is going to push us into the end part of the show here.
You got there.
We got there.
You got there.
I'm just like trying to think. There's so much stuff that I'm skipping, but we'll go. I want to go over a couple because we skipped it last week. I want to go over a couple of comps. I have a bunch pulled here, but we'll only do a couple here. Of course, guys, if you are new to the show, make sure you join the Discord, discord.me/LegendsPodcast. And what you can do is when you get a first place in a game, post it in the Post Your Comps channel, and there's a chance that we'll talk about it on the show. We got a couple here. One here is from Packanab, who is actually brand new to the show from last week, so welcome. They got a filthy Tier 3 Nocturne. Hope you enjoy it while it lasts. Tier 3 Nocturne, Tier 3 Skarner, Tier 3 Kog'Maw as well. Throw a Zed in there for good measure. And actually a stacked up Twitch with a Runins and some other good items as well.
It's still utility Twitch though. It's
Yeah,
not
that's true.
like putting IE. It's Ionic Spark, what an item. Zeke's also a utility item, and a Runons to spread the poison. They're all utility.
I like it. I like it a lot. Really good one there. And we'll do one more here. Oh, this one. Oh, shoot. I don't know who it's from though. It's such a good comp. That's fine. I'm skipping it. Sorry. We'll do one more here. Oh, we'll do this one. This one's Beddits. Big time listener Beddits. Got that tier 3 Mundo. I'm always enjoying a comp that wins with a tier 3 Mundo. He's kind of fallen out of favor a little bit just because I think they fixed a bug where he doesn't gain mana as much as he did at the beginning, so he got significantly worse, and that was intended to do that. So it's sad, but give me a tier 3 Mundo. I want to see him show up more. Put the scaling back up for Mundo specifically, and no one else.
Hire this guy, Balance Team. He knows what he's talking about.
I know what I'm talking about. It's Buff Mundo. Okay, last thing before we go. We had one new iTunes review, guys. If you are listening on Spotify, iTunes, wherever, make sure you do leave us a review. It's super helpful. This one is from NJ Sully on Apple Podcasts. Great show, 5-star review. I decided to take a few months off from TFT to focus on my college education. When school break started, I came back to a daunting new set 2 and knew nothing. Little Legends podcast helped me get right back into the game as if I had never left. Thanks, guys, and keep up the good work. Thank you, NJ Sully. We do try to do that and fail a lot of the times, but sometimes we do help some people. That's great. But that is going to be it, guys. Thank you, everyone, for listening again. We've talked about the links to where to go. Discord is going to be the best place. Discord.me/ Little Legends Podcast. Check out Super League Gaming. What is it? Superleague.com?
Superleague.com.
Superleague.com. Make sure you check that out. See if there's a place to play. And if you guys are playing, let us know in the Discord. We'll shout you out and all that good stuff. Tag us. Everything and all things in between as well. But that's going to be it. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And again, thank you to our $10 patrons, Angry Frog, Undead Gamer, and Dr. Pepper. We will see you guys later. For Boop, for DeephErikson, I am the Blevins, and we will catch you guys not next week or next week for a little mini holiday episode, but after that, we'll catch you later. Bye-bye.
Bye. You're going to get busy.